Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Hi, everyone. No, folks are just getting in now. Give a few moments for more folks to join, and then we'll start here shortly. All right. All right. Hi, everyone. As people are entering in, I do want to make a quick housekeeping note. Hi, Greg. Welcome in, everyone. This session is being recorded, so please drop your questions in the chat as we go, and we'll follow up after this call with the recording and follow up to your questions. We've got a packed day, so we're going to get started. We are so glad that you're here. I'm Jeannie Clark, and I'll be your host for the next hour. We've packed a lot into the June release. So today you'll hear from people who actually built it. So you'll hear from our product and engineering folks, our support and implementation teams, and you'll also hear from people who actually use web checkout with our client spotlight from the University of Michigan. So here is what you can expect today. All right. We are going to start with a brand new patron portal experience. Then I'll run through everything else in the release that you'll care about. And then we'll hear how our guest spotlight from the University of Michigan use web checkout. We'll then get a sneak peek into the December roadmap. And then we'll have two quick how-to sessions you can put to use right after this webinar. And then we'll end today with a session on SSL certifications and why you should care. So we're going to get right into it. To kick us off, I'm going to turn it over to Daniel, our former art and design professor with a diverse practice and our front-end designer. Daniel, walk us through the new Patron Portal user experience, please.
Hi, I'd like to share the primary user flow following the June 26 redesign of Patron Portal. I want to showcase the redesign that was built from feedback-driven design solutions that it's aimed at modernizing the visual design, improving feedback to the user, um, achieving WCAG AA compliance, improving the mobile experience, and uh, reducing cognitive load, especially for new users, by sticking to comfortable patterns, a cleaner structure, and prioritizing the primary flow through progressive disclosure. So I want to walk through this and just kind of point out how that all happens. First, we arrive at the new homepage with a cleaner empty state and a very definite call to action in the upper right, which is going to be a consistent place that our users are going to get their attention drawn to. First thing, we have a cleaner presentation of reservation details. And again, the consistent call to action for submitting the reservation and browsing the catalog to guide new users to what they need to do without instruction. Um, in the catalog, we have some new features like an inline search. And a new position for the add item button, which may take some getting used to for seasoned users. But again, it's pushing all of those primary actions into the upper right corner so everybody just knows where to find them. We also have new sorts within the catalog, so users can sort by name, date added to find new items, and by popularity to find those things that everybody wants. I'm going to add a few more things to the cart here. And as always, if we want to add by ID, we can pop out this little card to add specific items. Another new feature is the cart peek so that users can see what they have in their cart without having to leave the catalog. And then back in the catalog, when you have 3 or more items added, you have access to filters for those long allocations that are just too long to scroll through. You can sort and filter them. We have a new field over in the reservation details, which is reservation name, which will come into play in a moment, and our action area save button. And when we submit our new clear error messages. So we fill in instructor name. Whoa. My screen just minimized my. Right. So after we submit our reservation, we can see that on our homepage, we have a card for that reservation. And if I look at another user that has a few more reservations, we can see that we surface status of that reservation through color and tags to give the user a little more information about action items. I also wanted to highlight the changes to the timeline, which allows users to see availability within the context of a resource type. So they can see when items are checked out. They can hover to see how many of a specific item are available at a specific time or when an item is expected to be returned. This also reminds me that in the catalog now, we have availability surfaced for specific items based on the time that is set in the reservation info. And then lastly, I just wanted to share really quickly the responsive mobile layout that keeps everything down to a very small size. So that's all to share. I hope everybody likes it.
Thank you, Daniel. That is a great glow up for Patron Portal. It was a quick review, but for those who are already familiar with Patron Portal, it's a familiar workflow, but just a better experience. And for your new patrons this year, it's hopefully going to be intuitive and easy for them to adopt. So thank you again, Daniel, and thank you for all the customers who gave feedback to get us to where we are today. So that's a big one. But there's a lot more in the June release, especially for your operations and your staff. So I'm going to take the next few minutes to run through all the other June features that you should care about. So to kick us off, get the slide working. All right, here we go. So beyond the portal that you just saw, there are real important updates in web checkout that's going to make a big difference to your day-to-day operation. So we're going to start with the real-time visibility that's going to give your team more insight as you are creating checkouts and reservations and helping people in real time. So it's going to reduce wait times. So that same patron portal catalog view that displays availability counts, that is going to be available for your operators. So you too can now see items, if the items are available, including bundle items right in the catalog. We also have a new flag for review feature, and this is a way to alert operators of an item needing attention without pulling it offline fully. So think of the last time when a patron notified you of a cracked item or a missing part or something that just won't charge anymore, and you had to write it down on a sticky note. We've been on site, we've seen your operations, and we've seen sticky notes all over the place, which is great, but you have to remember to look at that sticky note. Well, now that sticky note is a flag for review, and that note surfaces at pickup and return. And don't worry, flag items cannot be booked without an override. So that means there's flexibility. Operators who can book it. However, in Patron Portal, you cannot book items that are flagged. So now in web checkout, you're seeing what's actually free, what's available, and you are notified right away when an item needs a second look before it goes out. Another new improvement, you will find more control and clarity to reduce errors and frustrations with smarter solutions available with the June release. All right, to best explain the benefits of the new overdue buffer mode, I'm going to ask you all a question. During the end of fall semester or term, how many times do you run into situations where overdue items are impacting with other upcoming reservations? And you can raise your Zoom hand or you can just do it virtually. And I'm sure that's many of you. We've seen the support tickets come through as well. Now, web checkout cannot ensure your patrons return their items on time. While we'll try with those nagging emails, and it certainly will not allow you to pick up items that are unavailable. However, with this new overdue buffer mode setting, you can now control if and how long late unreturned items impact future reservations with this new overdue buffer mode setting. All right. Like to see some positive responses. Thank you there. All right, for our next smarter improvement, the error message, which we saw Daniel quickly run through as well. But how many of you have seen a vague error message like unable to schedule due to conflict and absolutely had no idea what to do next? Yeah, I've been there too. Now, with this new improvement, the scheduler will tell you exactly what kind of issue you're looking at. So whether it's all of the items of that type have been booked out, or if there is a true overlapping, a conflicting schedule, web checkout will tell you what it is and what to do about it. And again, this is also improved in Patron Portal, so hopefully your users can resolve their bookings on their own instead of showing up at your desk. All right. Another new improvement, projects. Projects, this module keeps getting better and it is now better integrated with Patron Portal and with email messaging. So I do have to call out many thanks to our greenlighting development partners. They continue to invest, giving us feedback, testing out what we release to give us feedback on how we can make this actually work for their operations and your operations. So thank you for our dev partners. So with this June release, projects having a lot of moving parts. There's multiple items you need to collect. There's dates. There's an approval process. You finally have a form that's flexible and that can keep up with all those moving parts. The June release features an improved form, an improved user interface for the production managers with more fields in the form and more logic to work smarter. So you all can collect all the information you need for approval. And furthermore, nobody is left guessing where the status or what the status of the project is. With this new improvement, students in Patron Portal can get real-time status updates right in the screen that they're used to going to book their equipment for these projects. And now projects include email notifications so everyone is in the loop, from your equipment team to the production manager to obviously your students with the project. So your desk is no longer fielding, is my project approved yet questions? Instead, you have more flexibility, more transparency, and of course, one system that everyone's familiar with. All right. Speaking of lots of moving parts, your daily operations probably include more than just check-ins and check-outs. So if your operations also include event tasks, you're delivering equipment, tearing down equipment, as well as you have technicians who address repair tickets, your front dashboard in web checkout is configurable to include more information, including tasks and tickets, so web checkout can really support the various ways your teams work. So Brittany from our services team will show you just how to edit the dashboard in our how-to session later today. Another better personalized experience, the June release now supports internationalization, which means you in web checkout, as well as your patrons in Patron Portal, can set their own language, right? And you may have caught this while Daniel was sharing his screen, but we now do a better job of displaying, or we actually now display the checkout center time zone and the local time zone. So there's no confusion on schedule time. So if your students or faculty, staff, they're away on break and they're traveling to back home, different time zone, there's no confusion when they're building their reservations. So these features not only add to personalizing the experience, but it really is improving the overall experience for both your staff and for your patrons. All right. And what better way to personalize and improve the experience than adding images to resource types and now checkout centers too, so that they're visible in Patron Portal. You can have images of your locations. And images, they really bring the Patron Portal experience to life. And we know the current process of adding image URLs might be, it's very manual and sometimes even tiresome. And while we still require an image URL and the system still will generate that URL, the application now provides kind of an easy button. So now you can copy that attachment URL easier and add it to all of your resource types and checkout centers. And speaking of easier features, if you've been dragging your feet on branding and customizing your web checkout email, I get it. But you're in luck because the email editor just got easier to manage. And Nicole from our support team will show us just how easy it is today. So no more excuses. And so be sure to stick around for our how-to sessions. Now, these may feel like small updates, but it's now easier to manage, and the payoff will speak volumes when each touch point and the messages your patrons receive, it feels more like your institution. And hopefully the end goal there or the end result is that they'll start paying more attention, right? All right, now rounding out the June features. Every operation can now run on barcodes using tools you probably already have on hand. So in the June release, Web Checkout now auto-generates a WCO ID. It is a unique value assigned to every resource, new and old, that the application will recognize through barcode scanning. And that WCO ID, along with the resource name or the resource ID, can be downloaded as a ready-to-print Avery Label Sheet right from Web Checkout in both a standard 1D barcode, what we're all familiar with, and QR codes. I'm sure we're all familiar with that too. And if you've already been operating with barcodes for years, like our clients at the University of Michigan who are coming up next, you no longer have to track where you left off with that unique ID generator. Those values are now, they're populated in Web Checkout. It handles that for you. Also, with this release, we've optimized how the application reads the camera feed in real time. So there's better focus and image handling. So on a standard smartphone or a laptop camera, it performs much closer to a dedicated scanner hardware. So anywhere you see that camera icon in web checkout or mobile inventory, you can try that on. You can try that with a camera scanning workflow. So put these features together, the WCO ID, barcode printing, and a camera scan workflow, every checkout center can run a barcoded operations with equipment you already own. So no scanner budget needed, no extra software. We just need some time to tag your items and you're set up for faster checkouts and hopefully a smoother fall semester. All right. Now that was a quick overview of the new features, and these are just the new features released in the past 6 months. So if you're coming from an older version, 2024, for example, there's a whole slew of features in 2025 that released. So if you'd like to dig deeper into any of these features, email services at webcheckout.net, it's a great way to put your dedicated professional service hours to use and right ahead of the new semester. And if you're unsure whether or not you have hours available, just email us. We'll help you figure it out. All right. Now, before we go into the University of Michigan, I have a quick poll. Speaking of barcodes, quick poll from everyone. You should see it pop up now. Do you currently barcode your equipment and do you use barcode scanners? This is a quick yes or no question, or you may not be sure. I'm going to give this about a few more seconds here and let's see the results. One more second and let's close it out. And can we see the results? Uh, do you all see the results? I'm going to assume many of you. Oh, there we go. Great. Yes. My assumption was kind of on. So a majority of you use barcode scanners. Wonderful. For those that who don't, you all now can. I do have a follow-up question. This is going to be just as quick. For those that do not use barcode scanning, that's about 30% of you. I follow-up question, why are you not using barcodes? You have a few options there. So again, for those who are not using barcode scanners, why are you not? Is it the cost? No need? Wasn't aware? Don't know where to start? Give you one more second there to engage in this poll. All right, thank you. Can we see the results of that? Give it a second here. And not needed for workflow. Interesting. Wasn't sure it was an option, and there is other. Great. Thank you all for your participation in that poll. Now, for those that it doesn't fit with your workflow, completely understand. But we are now going to stay on the topic of barcode and asset management, asset tag management. Maybe once you hear from our guest speakers, it may be something that could work with your workflow. So, I'm thrilled to bring in our guests for this one. Joining us from the University of Michigan is Katie Klosterman and Colleen Krug. Katie has been with Web Checkout since 2011. The university has been with Web Checkout since 2007. And Katie was a huge contributor to the mobile inventory application. And she, along with Colleen, they're going to walk us through how they went from no barcodes to tagging over 17,000 items and some best practices so you don't have to learn the hard way. Thank you both for being here today. Katie, over to you.
Okay. Share my screen.
Yeah. We can see you
All
and
right.
we can hear you.
Of course, at the end.
You're good. Thanks, Katie.
All right, everyone. Hi, I'm Katie Klosterman. I'm our asset manager for the LSA Technology Services here at the University of Michigan. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about asset tagging and barcoding. And for us, that's really in the realm of fixed asset tracking. LSA Technology Services uses Web Checkout to track audiovisual equipment installed in mainly classrooms, conference rooms, event spaces, and even some faculty offices across the Ann Arbor campus. We've had quite a journey with Web Checkout. Like Jeannie said, we adopted the software in 2007. In 2011, they hired me as their first full-time inventory-focused staff member. After a couple audit cycles, performing physical inventories over the summer, we started to look at barcoding. And in 2014, we really treated that like a research paper. The student workers that I had working for me that summer did research, presented their findings and recommendations, and started the implementation process. For the next decade, things were largely unchanged other than our scale. We went from about 6,000 or 7,000 objects upwards of 16,000, 17,000 objects. In 2024, we hired our second full-time inventory-focused team member. That's Colleen Krug, who's also on this call with us. And in 2025, we switched to her integrated label with a QR code. Now, our original goals of barcoding, if you're just at the start of your journey, was obviously to increase our speed and efficiency of that audit cycle. But we also use resource IDs that are an alphanumeric code, very simple VP dash, and so a series of numbers. And with them being so close, it was easy to make mistakes of what were we looking at with just site verification. Was it VP 2422 or was it 2442? So barcoding eliminated a lot of mistakes in reading similar resource IDs. We were also already starting to grow our service. Audiovisual support on campus was in high demand, and so we wanted to provide some scalability so that we could maintain that audit cadence. We were also looking at potentially increasing the frequency of those audits. Maybe there were some spaces that would benefit from more routine checks. So far, we've really seen the benefit of that with our loan operations. We do some micro inventories at the term breaks, as well as long service breaks for fall break or spring break, those gaps. We also see the benefit of reducing response time to inventory issues like missing equipment or damaged equipment. End users don't always report something in a space, and so it gives us a chance to make a space whole faster. We also are responsible for disposal of equipment, so we see the benefit of barcoding with reducing some manual data entry for those forms. Some of the considerations that we took into account during that research project into barcoding were the equipment that we would need. At that time, we didn't have any scanners, so we're mainly concerned about the equipment that we would need to purchase for that and the budget that we would need to support it. We also looked at whether or not we would do 1D barcodes or 2D, i.e. QR codes. At the time, we were thinking that QR codes were more, the benefit is that they can handle more data and that was more conducive to things like directing people to web pages than what we needed. That 1D barcodes were kind of the inventory standard, and it suited our needs. Now, as far as methodology of 1D barcodes, we chose code 128, and that really provided us a small label that would fit on more equipment. We chose to use minimal margins and no characters underneath so that we could fit it on more things. When we're looking at the option of printing barcodes ourselves or buying them, there are plenty of vendors that provide pre-printed sheets of barcodes. We really like the flexibility that printing our own provided us. We already had experience printing labels, and those same label makers had the ability to print and create barcodes. So the flexibility of printing our own would allow us to fit it on more pieces of equipment, different scale and size, or textures of equipment, as well as allowing us to replace them on the fly as things got damaged. And we also considered whether or not we wanted to put some branding or ownership on that same barcode label, another excuse to put the Block M somewhere. But we realized that, most of our equipment was in a podium. Having the same branding on every piece of equipment wasn't as valuable to us as the size, being able to shrink it down to the smallest available size, and that really the branding or ownership should be eye level on a podium. And so we ended up with a different sticker that gives us the benefit of adding our contact information and how people can get support for the equipment. And lastly, we were also considering what would be physically reachable in order to scan it. We obviously have a lot of video projectors installed in ceilings, and ceiling heights vary across campus. So we realized that at first that there would be some things that maybe we wouldn't barcode at all because they wouldn't be reachable. And over time, we decided to barcode them anyway, just for the nature of how much was in our storage areas at the time of audit, that there was still value to us in being able to barcode it while it was in our hands then, and then also at the end of its life cycle as we were preparing things for disposal. Now, some of the tools that we use, we've been a Brother TZ shop for as long as I've been around. Not to say that we don't use Brady or Dymo in other areas of our unit in college, but we use the Brother P-Touch editor software, and that really helps us with making templates that are easy to share our standards across units and across checkout centers. We use a variety of laminated Brother TZ tapes in conjunction with that. There are like extra strength adhesive versions for things that are textured or things that are meant for wrapping around cables. And we use a few different types of Bluetooth and wired barcode scanners. We originally bought the Socket Mobile 1D scanners since we were implementing 1D. They were lower cost. It was a priority of ours to have them be lightweight and easy to pair over Bluetooth with phones as we were sending them out with student workers across campus. Eventually, we switched over to the Socket S740, which is their unit that is capable of reading both 1D and 2D, i.e. QR code barcodes. And we still have quite a fleet of those that we send out with workers that are helping us over the summer. Now, Colleen and I, since we've got the daily drivers, we have a professional unit, the Zebra CS60 that Colleen spec'd out for us. It's really has a great error reading rate, and we really love having an extra battery that's like hot swappable. So if we're working on a really long project, we aren't limited by needing to be tethered to the wall because we ran out of juice. And we also have a wired unit. There are some teams that really found it annoying to share a Bluetooth device. Unpairing it and repairing it got tiresome. So we have a wired unit that's just a plug and play over USB, and it has the benefit of, it seems like it reads 1D barcodes, really long ones from monitors, especially like 20 character serial numbers really easily. I will turn it over to Colleen to talk about our template.
Hi, my name is Colleen Karg, and I am the inventory coordinator, which means I handle our day-to-day operations. As we've stated before, we have a large inventory here at University of Michigan of about 17,000 items and growing on the daily that are tracked and barcoded. An issue that we were running into is that as our inventory continues to grow, traditional barcodes were becoming longer and longer. And unfortunately for us, equipment is only getting smaller. It was becoming difficult to fit our traditional barcodes onto units that were shrinking in size and that were also being placed into areas that made it accessible for us to scan. I identified by that switching to QR barcoding, we can create smaller, cleaner labels that are easier to scan and less noticeable on devices. During our busy season, we can process up to 200 items per week, and I handle this by using the bulk import template that you can download in web checkout under the data import section. These templates allow us to fully upload equipment information into web checkout in large batches through a CSV file. The Brother label software that we use can also read those CSV files and allows us to use the same template to print labels at the same time. Utilizing these features, we improve printing speed and accuracy of our barcodes by building template dependencies. The QR code that you see on your screen is dependent on the information in that selected column in the CSV import file, and the written ID section that you see on the right is dependent on the QR information through a data dependency. This helps standardize the process since we can send out these templates to other departments, reduce typing errors, and make overall workflow more efficient to keep up with our ever-increasing volume. I can just select all on our sheet, click print all, and then it's printing while I'm unboxing everything and getting ready to go to my next steps.
All that to say that barcoding in conjunction with the mobile inventory app is just so much better. We used to run around site verifying and editing last inventory dates on individual records by hand. And we wouldn't be able to do that to this scale without the mobile inventory app and barcoding. We reach a 98% verification rate in under 12 weeks. And Colleen and I will work that down to 99.8% over the course of the fall semester as we work what we call the long tail using our detective skills. But we are excited to hear your questions and connect. Back to you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Colleen. Are you open, Katie, to sharing your contact information? There's been a lot of chatter in the chat, which I love to see. And while we may not have time for the questions today, I do see a follow-up session where we just share best practices. And Katie, would you be open if we were to share your contact, Colleen, your contact with the team here, with the customers here?
Absolutely.
All right, great. Thank you again so much for making the time to join and share with us how it works at the ground at the ground level at Michigan. Um, all right, one quick note before we get into our roadmap. If I can get the slide to cooperate. There we go. Just a note on barcode hardware and web checkout. Uh, if it works on your computer, it works with web checkout. So Katie shared what works well for the University of Michigan, and there's some options for you all to get started or if you want to upgrade your hardware. But find what works with your process and with your budget. You can even use now your smart devices, that camera to operate as a barcode scanner. But if it works with your computer, it'll work with web checkout. All right, now over to Lee, our head of product. He's going to take us through what we can expect next in the December release. Lee, over to you.
Thank you, Jeannie. To be clear, it's always fraught with danger to talk about what we're going to release in the future when we haven't done the work yet. So I do want to start with uh, saying that this is what we're working on, what we're planning for. Some of this is definitely December. Some of it might bleed over into the release after that, but these are the things that we're actively working on. The first thing that I have been actively working on for some time is the full resource lifecycle, working basically adding two additional phases to the life of your resources. That would be the pre-service phase when something's on order, when it's at the loading dock, when you're moving it through the process of commissioning. And the last one is out of service, resources that have been in service for some time, or in some cases, those that came to the loading dock were broken and never actually made it into service. So the out of service will allow you to maintain those resources and those resource types and the connection to the circulation, to the checkout center where they've been circulating without having to move them to a graveyard center to avoid clouding your day-to-day operations. We are also adding features for improved replacement planning, including the ability to configure usable lifespans for your equipment, which will give you a projected replacement date for each piece of equipment. And for those of you who want to use this information or need to report on this information, we've also got we're not trying to become anybody's general ledger, but we do have a mechanism that we are adding to allow you to calculate or to project depreciation on your equipment and to run reports based on its current depreciated value. Additionally, in the decommissioning phase, in the end of life phase, we are adding workflows to allow you to gracefully handle lost and stolen items. So if you've got a checkout that never came back, you now have the ability to run it through a two-phase process. First, marking it reported lost, meaning that, we believe that this item is not coming back, or the student has told us that they're not, they don't have it, or something along those lines. And then the second phase is closing out that resource. So in the first phase, we generate new information to the patron, letting them know that this thing has been marked as lost and that we are potentially, if you configure it this way, we are anticipating charging them a replacement cost for the device. Once you close it out, that actually generates the invoices and kicks things off. So it's sort of an intermediate state between the two. This also allows you to close out allocations that have never been returned without having to return the checkout. So that state, hopefully, we won't find ourselves there anymore. Okay, go ahead, Jeannie. We're also working on our reporting capabilities. We are generating a collection of configurable workflow-focused reports, things that we've heard from you, needs that you have, a whole new set of more targeted reports with improved output and presentation. We're also generating them so that you can create your configurations and either run them manually when you need them or schedule them so that they will be generated at particular dates for particular date ranges. These reports are still in flight. We're still determining exactly what goes in there, and we are, in fact, soliciting opinions. I will be reaching out to a number of people, and if you want to be one of the people I reach out to, you can reach me through the support group or through Jeannie or so forth. But some examples of what we're doing: utilization and demand, especially being able to look at cross-center utilization. So if you've got the same resource type distributed across 3 or 4 checkout centers, you can figure out which is your prime checkout center for particular resources, possibly to prepare to transfer things as needed. Demand over time, you can see projected over time how the demand changes for a particular resource. This is obviously potentially interesting when it comes to class schedules and so forth. We're adding a collection of audit and reconciliation reports, barcode coverage reports, audit trail reports for specific pieces of equipment, and mechanisms if you want to, or if you have to do random sample audits to choose those items and perform the audits in Web Checkout. Also, asset lifecycle and financial planning. This goes back to the full resource lifecycle. So the ability to see where your assets live in the lifecycle, how many items are about to end their useful life, what the replacement value, replacement cost of those are, that sort of thing. Next slide, please. I suspect this is going to be popular. Building on the new Patron Portal user interface that Daniel showed you earlier, we're in the process of converting that to a iOS and Android mobile native application. The goal is that we have one interface and multiple platforms. So our goal is to produce the exact same interface regardless of the device, but give us the opportunity to capitalize on the capabilities of the mobile device. This is part of a longer term effort, mobile first development. We do know that mobile devices are very important to everybody, that they're very useful, and we're working towards moving as much of our operations to mobile interfaces as possible. I'm also looking at bundles and improvements to bundles. Specifically, again, building on the bundle availability that we've got in the current release, I'd like to be able to track bundle demand and usage. What that means is that the bundles are going to have to become a more sophisticated component. And we're hoping that one of the advantages of this work is that we'll be able to tie bundles to groups and projects. Your patron goes into Patron Portal. They are enrolled in Cinematography 101, and one of the things that they've got in the interface is a suggestion that they probably need the Cinematography 101 bundle. Hopefully this improves presentation of the information to your students and really helps to streamline their interaction with the system. And on top of that, we are always doing user interface improvements. With Daniel on staff, I trust you were as impressed with his presentation earlier as I was. Daniel has improved our capabilities significantly, and I anticipate that we're going to see his impact throughout the application as time goes on. I believe that's everything I've got. Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Lee. That was a lot of new features, new value you all can receive. This is all part of the existing web checkout, with the exception of bundles or projects, but the reporting that will be part of everyone's implementation when you all update to the December release. It's already December here at Web Checkout. All right. Now, if you're still with us, this is now where we get to see some of the new features in action with our how-tos. So this is a great way to familiarize yourselves once you're upgraded. And there are many of you that are already upgraded. So these are features you can use right away. So many of you have worked with our next presenter. She's knowledgeable, she's helpful, very patient, and very encouraging. She's Brittany Wood, our senior implementation consultant, and she's going to walk us through the new configurable front page. Brittany, over to you.
Thank you, Jeannie. So again, my name is Brittany Wood, and I'm an implementation consultant over at Web Checkout. So today I'm pretty excited because I get to review one of my favorite features from the June 2026 release, which is our updates to the dashboard. The reason why I really enjoy this new feature is because it incorporates a lot of feedback that many of my clients have provided. So we can now update the dashboard per checkout center. We can also incorporate widgets that allow you to include not only allocation details, but also resource, task, and tickets to the dashboard. And we can also now adjust the header for those widgets and the column width for those widgets. Now, to customize the updated dashboard, we'll do that with just 3 simple steps today. So we'll first set our scope intentionally, then we'll add, edit, and remove any widgets. And then finally, we'll make sure to save our work and review our work up on the dashboard. And these are the steps that we'll use today with our example when it comes to tickets and tasks. But you can use these steps if you're hoping to edit for allocations, to view pickups and returns, or even view resources on the front page. All right, so bear with me while I share my screen, folks. And now you hopefully can see my web checkout. If you cannot see web checkout, please let me know. It will be very embarrassing if you can't see my application right now.
You're good to go, Brittany.
Excellent. So currently you can see my current dashboard. It includes allocations, pickups, returns. You can also see that I've already included assigned resources. But our goal today is to edit this to include tickets and tasks today. So we'll use those 3 simple steps we saw on the slide in order to make edits to this dashboard. So first we'll begin by selecting this new button right here, Configure Dashboard, and that will allow us to begin edits. So our first step is to set our scope intentionally. So in previous versions, we weren't really able to set our scope. You were limited to setting or adjusting the front page for your entire organization. Now we can set the scope to the current checkout center, or you can continue to edit for the entire organization. I would recommend just double checking the scope that you're setting at. You'll see the scope will be indicated. It will be highlighted in blue. And if you are editing a dashboard that that is currently in use, you'll see it indicated at the top that this is a currently active configuration. So it's actually in use on the front page. So step number 1, make sure you're intentionally setting your scope. For step number 2, we're going to edit the widgets, and the widgets will actually determine what information is populated up on the front page. So again, I currently have pickup, return information, along with the resource info. I can edit the widgets that are already included on the front page by using these arrows to change the ordering of those widgets. I can edit the details by selecting Edit right here and Remove. We'll play with these momentarily. But for now, we're going to focus on adding a new widget because we want to make sure we add in those tickets and tasks. So to add a new widget or a new panel, as we previously called it, we'll select Add Widget, and then we'll choose the type of widget we want to add. So I'm going to start with tickets. And if I scroll down, you can see where we can now edit this widget. And we're editing again the widget that appears on the front page. So the first thing that we'll edit is the actual label. So this will edit the header as it appears directly on your front page. So I'm going to label our first widget, Open Tickets. And next, we can determine our width of this widget. So you can use a half width, which is just half of the screen, or a full width of the screen, which is what you saw earlier when you saw the resource widget near the bottom of the screen. I'm going to leave this widget set to half width for now. And we're going to move along to editing our search terms and result columns. So hopefully by this point, search terms and result columns look familiar because these are the same search terms that you've likely seen on find screens if you searched for resources or tickets or other data within the application. And these will work in a similar manner, where search terms act to filter or add results. And the result columns will define the actual columns of information that appears on the result panels on the dashboard in this example. So for our tickets, I want to make sure I'm only including open tickets. So I'm going to add in a search term for status. And we'll set the status to new, unassigned. I also want to see my assigned and any reopened tickets. I'm omitting those resolved tickets though. Next, we'll choose our result columns. And again, the result columns define the columns of info that actually appear in those widgets. And you'll notice that by default, nothing is included. So you do have to include result columns to actually see information. So to begin, I'm going to add the actual ticket. I'm also going to include the resource so we can see if there's a resource associated with this ticket. I'll add in responsible operator, priority, and then finally our opened on date so we can see when exactly that ticket was opened. Now, finally, we're going to edit this summary right here. And this is also something that is new for the June 2026 release. So here you can actually choose if you want to add in the summary into the widget or omit the summary information from the widget. And you can also choose the information that is included on the summary. I usually like to include text or descriptive information to the summary that isn't usually sortable or used for reporting purposes. So I like to think of this as like contextual information as I'm viewing reports. So in my summary, I'm going to choose to include it, and I'm going to include the ticket summary. Perfect. Now we've completed step 1, setting our scope. Step number 2, which is editing our widgets. Now we can't forget to save. If you notice, the save button is blue. That tells us that there are unsaved changes. So when in doubt, always hit that save button. And finally, if we hop back into the dashboard, you can actually see your changes. And we'll make a few more edits here shortly, but now you can start to see my open tickets near the bottom of the screen. All right, let's continue to make those edits. And again, we're using those same 3 steps always to make our edits. So once again, we're going to hit Configure Dashboard. We're going to set our scope. And again, we want to make sure that the scope is the same to our other edits. So we're still editing at My Specific Checkout Center Webco Productions. And now we can continue to edit and add on new widgets. So now I'm going to add a widget for tasks so we can actually see what work we have today. So we'll select Add Widgets, choose Tasks. Again, we'll add in a label. This will be our header. We'll choose our width, whether we're using a half or full width for this widget. We'll add in search terms. And I'm trying to filter or only add in tasks that are scheduled to occur today. So I'm going to use the earliest and latest filter to only view tasks from the beginning of today to the end of today. We'll also incorporate some result columns. So I want to see the type of task. So we'll include task type. I'll include allocation so we can see if it's associated with one of our reservations or checkouts. I'm also going to include time of task. and task people just to see if there's any assignments. And for this widget, I'm going to omit the summary just so you folks can compare and contrast those on my front page. So again, we set the scope, we edited a widget, and we're selecting Save Again. Now, not only can you add in widgets, but once again, you can edit the widgets that are already on the screen. So if our goal is to reorder and we wanted to see tasks as our first widget, I would use these arrow icons in order to readjust. So we're seeing tasks first, then pickups and returns. You can remove a widget by using this red remove icon. And of course, edit right here. This will allow you to edit one of these existing widgets, and it's just using the same steps we saw earlier, where you edit those result columns and the search terms. All right, now I can't forget to save. And we'll hop back into our dashboard. And now you can see that we have a completely different look. We can first see today's tasks so that folks understand what they need to tear down from sites and deliver. They can now see their pickup scheduled for today, returns, and then finally any open tickets we have if we have leftover time for the day. All right, folks, I know that was a very quick how-to review, but thank you for joining. If you do run into any issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to the team.
Thank you, Brittany. So thorough and a very practical walkthrough in such a short time. I can already think of a few customers where they can now configure the dashboard, and this will be really good, a good update for them. All right, whenever you're ready, you can turn the screen back over to me. I think you're still sharing. All right, great. All right, continuing along our how-to session. This is our final how-to for today. How many of you have not branded your web checkout email? Show of hands. It's all right. We don't have to do a public who has not. But if you have not updated your or branded your email templates, you can now do it. It is much easier. And if you've been intimidated by the editor, don't be. If I can do it, you can do it. Trust me. So walking us through the new improved email template editor is your trusted and very talented senior technical support rep, Nicole. Nicole, over to you to educate us.
All right, thank you, Jeannie. All right, you can go ahead and go to the next slide here. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all enjoying yourselves today. So yeah, today I'll be going over the email template manager. We've introduced a redesign experience that is just way more cleaner. It's more intuitive for managing your email templates. There's also just clearer organization, and everything is more clearly labeled of what's your global defaults versus what your custom email templates are. That way it's more obvious of what you're editing and there is no confusion, and just more efficient ways to manage all of your email templates. So you being able to create, you can also now import. Everything is much easier with just a few simple clicks in the email template editor. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. And then Jeannie, can you confirm if everyone can see my screen?
We sure can.
Okay, awesome. So many of you may or may not be familiar with trying to brand your email templates, but if you are familiar, you'll notice that there has been some changes made. There is a new look. So I'm going to be basically walking you through this. You will only see this if you do have the messaging module. And the only way that you can edit these email templates is making sure that you have the manage organization and the manage templates capabilities. Anyone without those capabilities will not be able to edit these email templates. You can find this by traveling to the admin, organization, and then the messaging tab. So one of the new things that I was very excited about is, before we go into creating a new template set, one of the new features is you can now import templates from another organization. This is something I'm one of the main contacts for doing professional services for branding email templates. So this was such a big help to have this introduced. So for anyone else, if there's another organization that has logos or just templates that you kind of want to use as a base for yours, you can now import those from a different organization. So just to walk you through an example right here, you'll now select the create new template set. So we're just going to name this one test email set. You can always add a description. This is optional, but now there's one decision that really needs to be made, and it's how Web Checkout wants you to think about your email templates and how they relate to your defaults. So there's two options. You can either inherit them from the global email template set. You can also inherit from another set, but you can also make unique copies of all templates from this set. So as this example, we'll go ahead and make unique copies. So this basically means this is your own email template set. No other changes from the global defaults will be made to these email template set. So if we go ahead and press create, we'll see that I am now viewing this test email set that I created. And if we go down to one of the drop downs, as you can see, we've now organized this a little bit better. We have a billing category, so this will have all of your billing, emails and notifications, checkouts, reservations. Everything is organized much better. And you can see here on the right, there is that distinction that this tells you this is from your test email set, that this is what this template is for this template set. So we go ahead and press view template. You can change the template name, the description, and you can also see we have the editor here. Now there's 4 different options you can look at. We have the preview, which is what the recipient is going to see when they receive this email template. You also have the editor, which is the HTML side of it. You can drop in handlebars. We have some documentation about that as well. You also have the side-by-side, so that way you're viewing the editor and the preview at the same time. And the default, this is basically, if you make any changes to your email template set, if you press default, it'll show you what it used to be. Some of you may be looking and saying, hey, this is a little small, but not to worry, we do have an expand option. And again, we also have kept the functionality of being able to preview with existing allocations. So if you were to put in a CKID, it would fill out this information right here. So just as an example, like I said, you can make any changes. This is a change, and you can see that it's going to update in real time. So we can go ahead and press save there. And just as another example, just to show you, I have a different set right here. This is called the vanilla set. And for this one, I copied the global email templates for this email template set, but you'll see here, if I go to checkouts, these ones are all still the application default, so they are pulling in the global default templates, but because I made a change to checkout created, it is now separated and will not bring in global changes. This is now just a part of the set. So it's more intuitive of the different changes you can make, and it really does just help further of those distinctions of what is your email template set, so that way changes aren't being made without your decision. And as always, once you make all the changes you want, you will then need to travel to Admin Checkout Center messaging tab, and then you can choose it from the drop down here. And once you save, your email template set will be used across your checkout center. So as always, if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to support@webcheckout.net. We're happy to help you, happy to provide our documentation as well. If you just click the little help link here, that'll bring you to our doc site. And that has different steps, handlebar helpers that you may need. But like we said, as always, reach out to us at support@webcheckout.net, or if you're interested in using professional services, we can assist with branding your email templates as well.
Thank you, Nicole. I love that this is something that everyone watching can set up right after this call. So whether you're on the upgraded version with the easier manager, awesome. If you're not, you can still update your email templates now. And speaking of upgrading, if you are hosted, upgrading is as easy as just scheduling a date with our support team. If you're not hosted, it's all right. Just email us too. We'll walk you through the upgrade process. But talking about one of the new benefits of cloud hosting is our last presenter. So thank you for all that have stuck around. This will apply to you even if you are not hosted. But Joe, he spends a lot of time ensuring your hosted environments are secure and up to date. And he knows everything, a little everything about everything, if you ask me. He is your technical support analyst. Joe, walk us through another benefit of our cloud hosting services.
Sure. I know we're running a little long on time, so I will try to keep this brief. Jeannie, if you don't mind, thank you. So just a little background for people who are not necessarily from a technical or IT background. What is an SSL certificate? It is what enables you to have a secure connection to your web checkout instance so that the information you're accessing in your browser when you're using the application is secure, it's encrypted. If anyone were to intercept that traffic, they would not know what you're doing. They would not see any personal information. And SSL certificates have a lifespan. They need to be renewed periodically. And this is changing, which is where it will affect some of our clients. Jeannie, if you want to go to the next slide. Previously, certificates could have a 398-day lifespan. This is going to be reduced in stages down to 47 days. This is not a decision we made. This is basically an industry-wide decision that has come down from Apple, Google, Mozilla. So these certificates need to get renewed and replaced at an escalating rate. So Jeannie, next slide, please. The traditional way we've done this, and that many of you have heard from and worked with me on this, is manual renewal, where you would probably see a support ticket opened by me saying, hey, you've got 30 days left on your current certificate. We need to renew it. And this is a little bit of manual work. It would typically be me reaching out to you, and then you often having to reach out to your campus IT department, and they would in turn reach out to your certificate vendor. So there's a lot of back and forth. It was time consuming. It could be error prone. This is getting automated. We are putting this on autopilot, and we don't need to do that anymore. Jeannie, next slide, please. So how does this actually affect you?
Well,
If you're on our domain, meaning that the bookmark, the URL you go to in your browser is example.webcheckout.net, you don't need to lift a finger. We've got you covered. We're going to have your certificates renewing automatically. If you have a custom domain, so the URL you go to is webcheckout.example.edu, we're going to get you migrated over to automated certificate renewals with Let's Encrypt. And 99% of the time, again, you won't need to do anything. We can put this on autopilot for you. If you are running our software on premises on your own server, you can move to hosted and get Let's Encrypt as part of the deal. Or we may be able to help you implement this on-prem. It will really depend on some technical details specific to your environment. But if you're interested, get in touch and we'll see what we can do for you. That's me. Back to you, Jeannie.
great. Thanks, Joe. That was direct and very informative. So, as Joe mentioned, if you all are interested in upgrading or interested in cloud services, here's our contact information. You all know where to reach us, support at webcheckout.net, and services at webcheckout.net. We're here for you all. Thank you all for your time. This has been a great informative session, and we are seeing the chatter in the chat, and we will absolutely follow up. One last poll for those who are still here. If you don't mind answering this question, we want to see you in person. If we were to have an in-person event, about 1 to 2 hour flight of you, would you attend? Yes or no? We'll definitely follow up with a webinar, option 2 for sharing best practices, but that is a wrap on the June release. Huge thank you to all of our presenters today, Daniel, Lee, Brittany, Joe, Nicole, and everyone behind the scenes. And a very, very special thanks to our guests, Katie and Colleen, from the University of Michigan for joining us. And thank you, everyone who stayed and were attentive and with all your responses online too. We really appreciate it. We hope you have the best rest of your day. Have a great week, and we'll follow up with the recording. Thanks again, everyone. See you all later.